If you are hoping to get your hands on the Caitlin Clark version of Nike's Kobe Bryant sneaker, you're out of luck. They are out of stock. The WNBA star teamed up with Nike for a player edition of the Kobe 5 Pro Tro, decked out in Indiana Fever colors. You see them on your screen. They dropped at 10 a.m. Monday, and they sold out before 11 a.m. In fact, in just minutes. The $190 kicks are already showing up on the secondary market at close to double.
Stop everything, because what just happened with Caitlin Clark and Nike isn't just another sneaker release, it's a seismic shift in sports, business, and culture. In less than an hour, her collaboration with Nike sold out, sent prices skyrocketing on the resale market, and even pushed Nike's stock higher. But here's the real story. This wasn't just about shoes, it was about power, influence, and how one player is rewriting the entire playbook for women's sports. And the craziest part? This is only the beginning. The first warning sign that Caitlin Clark's influence was on another level came the second Nike quietly dropped her Kobe 5 Pro Tro Player Edition. At exactly 10 a.m., the shoes hit the site. By 11, they were gone. Completely sold out, and we're not talking about a slow trickle of purchases. We're talking minutes, maybe seconds, before fans flooded social media saying they couldn't even get past the checkout screen. That's when things got wild. Within the same hour, pairs started popping up on resale sites for almost double the original $190 retail price. Some were already listing north of $350, with bids climbing higher by the minute. That kind of frenzy is rare even in the men's sneaker market and almost unheard of in women's basketball. For Caitlin Clark, though, it was just another day of shattering expectations. The demand wasn't just about owning a pair of shoes, it was about being part of a cultural moment. Fans lined up outside stores, camped out for early stock, and rushed online drops like they were chasing Air Jordans. And the message was loud and clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just selling sneakers, she's moving markets. The appetite for her brand was undeniable, and Nike had just unlocked a goldmine. But what came next proved this was far bigger than one product drop. Because the real story wasn't about the shoes at all, it was about the symbol. As wild as the sneaker sellout was, it was only the appetizer. The real bombshell came when Nike officially unveiled Caitlin Clark's personal logo, the double CC. At first glance, it looked simple. 2 interlocking letters, clean and modern. But hidden inside was a third, smaller C. A subtle design choice meant to represent the foundation of her game. Built from the inside out, fueled by passion, relentless work, and the pursuit of perfection. Fans had been speculating for months, demanding to know when Nike would finally stop dragging its feet. Nike fumbled the bag became a running joke online, but the second that logo hit the screen, it was clear Nike wasn't fumbling at all. They were playing the long game, and this was their move. Of course, the internet lit up instantly. Some fans compared it to Chanel. Others said it reminded them of Gucci. A few even joked it looked like an old airline logo. But here's the thing, and it didn't matter. Whether people loved it or hated it, everybody was talking about it. The logo was already doing exactly what Nike wanted. Driving conversation, sparking debate, and cementing Caitlin Clark's brand as something bigger than basketball. And with the announcement that a full signature line, including her own shoe, is scheduled for 2026, the reveal wasn't just about a design. It was about a statement. Nike wasn't dabbling in women's sports anymore. They were doubling down on the biggest star the game has ever seen. But if the logo got fans buzzing, the financial aftershocks that followed showed just how powerful Clark's influence had become. Because the markets were watching too. The moment Caitlin Clark's logo hit the market, the ripple effect went far beyond sneakerheads and basketball fans. Wall Street noticed. Almost immediately, Nike's stock spiked 3% in a single day. For most companies, that kind of jump takes weeks of careful announcements. But all it took here was one player, one logo, and one product drop. And that wasn't the end of it. Nike's shares had already been climbing after beating expectations in their quarterly earnings. But Clark's reveal poured fuel on the fire. By the end of the week, the company's total gains had jumped to 17%. Think about that. A multi-billion-dollar global corporation saw its fortunes rise off the back of a 22-year-old WNBA rookie. The critics who spent months saying Nike was dragging their feet, fumbling the bag, and missing their chance, suddenly went silent. Nike hadn't fumbled anything. They'd played their cards perfectly, waiting until the timing was right, and the payoff was massive. But this wasn't just about one good week in the stock market. Analysts began to sound the alarm in the best way possible. They weren't just calling Clark a good signing, they were calling her a marketing goldmine. Some even suggested that Nike had landed the bargain of the century, an 8-year, $28 million deal that was already looking like one of the smartest bets the company has ever made. And yet what made investors lean forward wasn't what had already happened. It was what was still to come. Because if a logo reveal could shake the financial world, the projections for her signature shoe release were about to blow the doors wide open. the sellouts were impressive, the logo reveal was historic, but the projections? That's where things start to feel unreal. Industry insiders are already predicting that Caitlin Clark's signature shoe, scheduled for release in 2026, could generate anywhere between $100 million and $150 million in its first year alone. That's not just WNBA history. That's territory usually reserved for the biggest names in basketball, period. Nick DePaula, one of the most respected voices in the sneaker industry, didn't hold back. He said flat out that Clark's shoe could become a top 5 signature line across all of basketball, NBA included. That would put her name next to the giants: Jordan, LeBron, Curry, Kobe. And she hasn't even stepped onto the court in her first signature sneaker yet. Fans are already proving the hype is real. Early merch drops, hoodies, tees, even limited edition team gear are vanishing in minutes. At one Dick's Sporting Goods store, people lined up around the block, camping out overnight just for a chance to get Clark's Indiana Fever-themed Kobe 5s. Online, pre-order lists crashed websites within hours. This isn't casual demand. This is superstar-level hysteria. And here's the kicker. Those numbers don't even include the ripple effect across Nike's broader business. When Clark's logo debuted, Nike didn't just drop a design. They dropped the foundation of what could become one of the most valuable athlete brands of the next decade. A brand that analysts now say could generate over $1 billion in economic impact for women's basketball in just a few short years. For Nike, the message was clear. They weren't just investing in an athlete. They were investing in a phenomenon. And for the rest of the sports world, the question became impossible to ignore. If Caitlin Clark could drive this kind of frenzy before her shoe even launched, what happens when the sneaker finally arrives? If you want to understand just how far Caitlin Clark's influence really reaches, you can't just look at Nike. You have to look at the entire WNBA. In 2024, Clark was responsible for an astonishing 26.5% of the league's entire economic activity. One player. A quarter of the league's business tied directly to her name. That's not just impressive, that's unheard of. Her jersey sales tell the same story. Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever jersey wasn't just popular, it became a global phenomenon. By mid-season, it ranked as the second best-selling basketball jersey across both the WNBA and NBA, trailing only Steph Curry. Let that sink in. She outsold LeBron, Durant, Giannis, and every other NBA superstar except Steph, and the growth was jaw-dropping. Fever jersey sales surged by 193% in 2024, smashing every record the league had ever seen. She hasn't slowed down since. Even into 2025, Clark continues to dominate NBA merchandise sales, keeping her spot as the league's #1 seller. But it doesn't stop at jerseys. Everywhere you look, the Caitlin Clark effect is boosting numbers. Ticket sales spike when she's on the schedule. Merch tables sell out in arenas she visits. Even her presence online moves markets. Her posts announcing new merch or team gear routinely rack up millions of impressions. Translating directly into sales? What Nike understood and what the league is learning is that Caitlin Clark is more than a star athlete. She's a cultural force, and with her growing brand power, the WNBA itself is being pulled into a new era of attention, visibility, and money. But here's the real twist. Caitlin Clark's impact isn't happening in isolation. She's at the center of a revolution that's transforming women's sports as a whole, and the numbers prove it. Caitlin Clark's rise isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a tidal wave that's reshaping the entire landscape of women's sports. According to industry projections, women's sports are expected to generate $35 billion globally in 2025, a staggering 25% increase from the year before. And right at the heart of that growth is women's basketball. For decades, soccer dominated the conversation around women's athletics, especially on the global stage. But analysts now predict that basketball is poised to surpass soccer as the top-earning women's sport worldwide. Why? Because of stars like Caitlin Clark, who are proving that women's basketball can capture audiences, sell out arenas, and drive merchandise the same way men's sports do. The timing couldn't be better for the WNBA. The league just secured an unprecedented $2.2 billion media rights deal, the biggest in its history, tripling revenue streams practically overnight. And guess who networks are fighting over? Caitlin Clark. Her games don't just attract loyal fans, they attract casual viewers, first-timers, and entire households who tune in simply because she's on the floor. The numbers don't lie. On average, Clark's games draw 1.09 million viewers, nearly 3 times higher than WNBA games without her. That's the definition of star power. She isn't just lifting her own team, she's dragging the entire league into a new era of visibility and relevance. And it goes even deeper. Every time Clark steps on the court, sponsors, broadcasters, and advertisers see dollar signs. Companies that once overlooked women's sports are now scrambling to buy in. realizing they can't afford to miss out on the Caitlin Clark effect. But here's the kicker. When Clark isn't there, the momentum takes a major hit. And that's where things get really interesting. But here's the problem. The WNBA is becoming dangerously dependent on Caitlin Clark. When she missed games due to injury, viewership didn't just dip. It collapsed by nearly 40%. Networks and sponsors felt the hit immediately. A reminder that Clark isn't just a storyline, she's the league's engine. For Nike, their $28 million bet already looks like a steal. But for the WNBA, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, Clark is driving record-breaking growth. On the other, her absence exposes just how fragile the league's momentum still is. And that's why Nike isn't just marketing an athlete anymore, they're building a cultural icon. Nike knows exactly what they're doing. They're not treating Caitlin Clark like just another player with a sponsorship deal. They're treating her like the future face of the brand. The rollout of her CC logo wasn't packaged as a product drop. It was presented as a cultural event, the kind of reveal usually reserved for the biggest names in sports history. And the strategy is clear. Nike is positioning Clark's line at the intersection of sportswear and luxury. The logo tees and hoodies are affordable enough for everyday fans, but the branding feels high-end, sleek, and aspirational. It's Chanel meets Jordan, a fusion that gives women's basketball something it's never had before, a luxury look that still feels accessible. Clark's upcoming signature shoe will be the centerpiece, but the movement goes far beyond sneakers. Nike is building her into a lifestyle brand, with merch, apparel, and storytelling designed to reach fans who don't even watch basketball. That's how you transform an athlete into an icon. For the WNBA, this is more than just good marketing. It's validation. The league has finally found a superstar who can drive culture the way Jordan did for the NBA or Serena Williams did for tennis. And for Nike, Clark is the golden ticket, proof that investing big in women's sports doesn't just work. It pays off in ways no one thought possible. But as big as the logo launch was, it was only the beginning. Because the moment her first signature shoe drops, the entire industry could change forever. Caitlin Clark's logo drop wasn't just a branding move, and it was a warning shot. In minutes, her merch sold out. In hours, Nike's stock jumped. In days, the entire sports world realized that one athlete had just shifted the balance of power in women's basketball. The CC logo was the spark. The sold-out Kobe Protros proved the demand. And the signature shoe coming in 2026? That will be the explosion. The moment Caitlin Clark's name joins the ranks of Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron in sneaker culture history. But this is bigger than Nike, bigger than the WNBA. This is about a new era, an era where women's sports aren't just catching up, they're redefining the game, reshaping the market, and proving that female athletes can be global icons with billion-dollar brands. The Caitlin Clark effect isn't hype. It's real, it's powerful, and it's only getting stronger. Because while the logo was just the beginning, the revolution she's leading, that's already here.